The Welsh Labour Party are the most successful political party in the history of not just the UK, but the entire world.
Labour was born in Wales.
But their century-long winning streak might be about to come to an end, with Senedd, that's the Welsh Parliament, elections next May.
There's 3.5 million, right, Welsh people. Are we a racial minority?
But first there's a by-election here in Caerphilly. Polling predicts that Labour's vote share has collapsed, and Reform and Plaid Cymru, that's the Welsh Independence Party, are neck and neck.
Well, Labour are gone. Plaid to the left and you got Reform at the right, but I don't think Reform got any interest in what goes on around here.
Is Caerphilly the canary in the, well, ex-coal mine for the Labour Party? And how did we get here? We're about to head into the Caerphilly Miners' Centre to speak to Dr. Ben Curtis. He literally wrote the book on coal mining in South Wales.
Coal was king in this part of the world. Labour's electoral dominance in the coalfield comes from its connection to the mining industry. The role of the industry within the community has been something which is on a been on a decline for a lot of the 20th century. But the kind of affiliation to Labour still has remained kind of strong. Despite that.
What really annoys me is I remember the Thatcher years. I remember the wives of miners coming around collecting for food for their family. While Margaret Thatcher was starving them back to work. She decimated the area.
What did you? Will you be voting for me in this election? Excellent, that's what I like to hear. My great-grandfather was a miner, my grandfather was a miner, so this community does represent my family's background. My mother was a nurse in the NHS, so she voted Labour for a number of years, just religiously, and now she's turned away from the Labour Party as well because it doesn't represent us anymore.
I wonder if this man wants to talk. Hi. I'm a journalist with a company called PoliticsJOE, and that's the Reform candidate in the by-election. Do you want to have a chat about how you're feeling about the by-election?
No, I don't want to have a chat about fascists.
Really? Well, that man called you a fascist.
Immigration is an issue that comes up on the doorstep. If you look at polling, if you speak to people, it is. If you walk down the street here, you can see migration has been something that's impacted the town. But I'm quite concerned that other politicians want to brush it under the carpet if it's an issue that's important to the voters.
I mean, only about 2.9% of Caerphilly's population was born outside the UK. Do you think it's really that big an issue?
Well, that was census data done before the Boris wave, before Keir Starmer has let the illegal migration boats coming in. And census data isn't asking illegal migrants whether they're here or not. So for us, migration is an issue. It's important to people on the doorstep. So yes, I will be raising that issue. And I've shown in this election that I don't care what the establishment throws at me. I'm going to represent the people here and I'm going to continue to fight what's important to them. So I don't believe that census data. I think we've got a lot more people who understand Caerphilly better than pollsters or what statistics in Cardiff Bay says. We can see it in communities right now.
Some people, people of colour in Caerphilly, say they feel a bit unwelcome since Reform's gained so much prominence here, and you've been accused of sowing division. How would you respond to that?
I haven't sown division at all. We're talking about migration. If I speak about education and where Wales is performing in PISA results, I'm not demonising teachers or students. I'm simply talking about bad policy that's been done by politicians. If anyone should feel demonised by me, it's politicians, because I'm the one who's holding them account on this. So I don't accept that. I think what Reform has done here is brought more people into our democratic process. Turnout has traditionally been low because people feel the politicians have ignored them. What we're doing is trying to turn out voters and to get people back involved in our democratic process. I haven't spoken about where people have come from. I haven't spoken about one set of group. That's not what we're about here. It's about a fair legal process of how people come into this country, and it's about having a manageable system.
My son is black, my daughter is black. And I said to my son, just be aware now, just be wary, make sure that you keep your eyes open, because there are people now who aren't kind, who want to stir up racial hatred again. And Caerphilly's always been a welcoming place. This is why we moved here. It's an amazing place to live, and people are so welcoming. But the atmosphere since Reform has moved in has changed completely. I went to the Reform offices and I asked them, why do you want to divide people? Why are you not trying to unite people and bring them together? And he said, well, the immigrants are, they're taking over our jobs and that. It's not true. The immigrants get minimum wage. They're not taking over our jobs. They have the jobs that nobody wants to do. They're not paid big money. They're not taking from us. And as human beings, we need to support and love everybody. And I hear so much about the reforms, so we're Christians. Well, if you are truly Christians, we need to unite people.
Immigration's become a bit of a flashpoint in this by-election. That's despite the fact that the Senedd don't have control over immigration policy. That's kept in Westminster. Say it loud, say it clear. We're just approaching a counter-protest, which is pro-immigration. Refugees are welcome here. That's to counter the demonstration planned later today, which is anti this plan for sanctuary, which would provide a framework to help refugees get into housing and find jobs. Refugees are welcome here.
He squashed the dog into it.
That's the St. David's Cross. It's the Christian flag of Wales. Yeah, Reform are good in that they'll destroy the Tory party, but they're not the full answer because they're not ethnic nationalists. They're civic nationalists. I mean, they've got Indians in the party. I believe the deputy leader is an Indian. In actual fact, see, non-white immigration in this country is illegal. They're all illegal because democracy is supposed to represent the people, and people have voted successively in elections to stop immigration, and the politicians don't listen to them. Adolf Hitler said in Mein Kampf that the politicians are caterpillars, and at election time they come out and turn into butterflies, and after the election they turn back into caterpillars. So that's exactly what's happening in our system.
What I would say with the nation of sanctuary, I think it's become so big now, politicised in the name of it and the controversy surrounding it. I just think a new approach to helping asylum seekers, and generally mean that asylum seekers would go down better as the public, because we can see the divisiveness at the minute, and it takes away from real issues.
We were just chatting, weren't we, is the fact that just to put a very black and white, to use the words, label on something is to explain so people understand. Because, I don't think this gathering has done themselves any good, and I've come here to support this because the optics of it and the audible sort of messages you're getting is not one of, well, help me understand. Migrants are our brothers, sisters, but then we need to sort of know that to get the information out there, because obviously there's a disconnect between communities and the Welsh Assembly Government. So it's seen as their policy, something external, instead of something like my neighbours. I've got sort of Muslim neighbours and Asian neighbours sort of in my own sort of community. They're a part of my community. And that's where the Labour Party has gone wrong, because it's not perceived as a part of my daily life.
People have been told that immigration is a huge issue, and there's no doubt that it is a talking point, because people have been told that all their problems on health, on education, on jobs are all down to some people moving across borders. We should talk about what Nation of Sanctuary is and what it isn't. It isn't about migrant numbers. It's about saying if people end up in Wales, that we will treat them with humanity and help them to integrate. I thought that's what everybody wanted. They wanted to see that integration. Add on top of that the fact that pretty much all of this, way over 80% of the money that's been spent, has been spent on housing Ukrainians who have come here to flee a war that Russia started. And what have Reform been doing? Their leader in Wales was taking bribes from Russia whilst we were housing people from Ukraine. I think that's the truth. Reform are part of a global phenomenon, but right here, they're the Conservative Party. It's people from the Conservative Party who are now wearing a Reform badge. Their candidate here in Caerphilly is former Conservative candidate. Their only elected person in the Senedd, not elected as Reform, was elected as a Conservative. This is the new Conservative Party. And when people remember what the Tories did to communities like Caerphilly, I think that should be a reference for them of what it is that they're being tempted to vote for. It is remarkable what's happened in a relatively short period of time, and I put it down to a number of things. The deep disillusionment in Keir Starmer and his government turning their backs on Labour values that people had hoped would be put into action through this government. It clearly hasn't. Then you have the ambivalence of Keir Starmer and his government towards Wales, but possibly most clearly seen in the fact that they let virgin steelmaking at Port Talbot go whilst putting in the effort to save steelmaking at Scunthorpe. That was a penny drop moment for many people. On top of that, then, you have Labour in Wales having refused to really stand up to Keir Starmer, stand up for Wales. They're seeing, therefore, that they need that change. The collapse in Labour support is clear to see, and the increase in support for Plaid Cymru is equally clear.
We had planned to interview the Labour candidate Richard Tunnicliffe, but he cancelled this morning last minute with no reason given. So for now, this is as close as we're going to get to him. The Labour Party's story begins in Wales, but right now, Caerphilly is also a microcosm of larger British political stories. From the consequences of deindustrialisation to fierce opposition over immigration to lack of investment and the cost of living crisis.
And everyone seems to think that if the boats stop, then everything's going to be right, but it's far more than the boats, isn't it?
Right now, reform remain contentious, but if Labour lose Caerphilly, Wales could also be where the party's story ends.